Hey guys, welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles! Resolve. In the last episode, we talked to Mr. Vigil, and yeah, it kind of saddened me the way things turned out for him. But I guess life isn't always fair. And all that led us to going here to Barclay Prison at the governor's office and the 2nd November. And now we're going to see what these Asogi papers are that he talked about. So let's get going.
Oh, back again, are you?
Yes, hello.
I've heard all about your investigations. I read the report just now. You found him, huh, Vigil?
Yes, luckily.
Well, anywho, the laddie does not work here no more, so your case not to do with Barclay. I would not like you to get the wrong idea about that.
Of course, yes, Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so... Yes, we've seen him dismissal notices, where haven't we? He was given the chop.
Oi, come on, you can very well. So how about a wee handcuff biscuit?
Oh, they really are like little handcuffs, and as hard as irons too.
So, what's brought you dude here that day?
Well, there's something else we'd like to ask you about, actually.
Is that so?
We believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Asogi's cell. I think it's been called the Asogi Papers or something.
Did I not say Grexon's death has not to do with no things that might have happened in Barclay? Leave the past in past, laddie. Let's not fill about with irrelevant details.
His expressions changed completely. We're clearly onto something here. Well, Mr. Caden. Okay, we have check marks all over again. And you know what I'm going to do next. We're gonna present stuff first.
What's that there?
Okay, so we had that already. So we had everything until then, apparently. I'm just gonna go, okay. No. Okay, nothing about that. Okay. Maybe there's something new here, so I'm just gonna go through all the stuff. You can fast forward if you want to. There's a timeline down below if you don't want to see that. I totally understand, that's okay. I just want to be thorough and don't miss out on anything like an achievement maybe, which we haven't gotten in a long time actually. So nothing about the dismissal either. That is really strange, Mr. Caden. Haha. The framed photograph maybe? Maybe you want to say that she's kind of pretty? No, you don't? Okay. What about the candelabrum? Of course, nothing. Should have thought about that. Maybe about the figurine? Nope, nothing about that either. Okay. So the red hairpiece maybe? Maybe you hate redheads? No, you don't? You don't have anything in particular to say about that? But the revolver, come on, you are very well versed in weapons, as we can see in your office. Okay, nothing about that either. The photograph maybe? Maybe you know Clint? You don't? Okay. The autopsy reports, there shouldn't be anything that's... Okay. Crime scene photograph? Okay, that was actually stupid. Just presenting things brainlessly. But that's Ace Attorney for you. There have been quite some moments in Ace Attorney where you wouldn't think of presenting stuff to people, and because you won't progress in the game, and that is just Ace Attorney. Nothing about Gregson either, huh? Okay. What about his watch, though? Nope. Okay. You don't want to talk? That's okay. And the identification, maybe? Okay, nothing about the identification either. But this photo... okay. Although you know these people, you sure have something really, Mr. Caden. Nothing about that photograph either. But your good friend, Professor Mikotoba is on it. Nah, well, 10-year-old legacy. Let's talk about that.
The murderers botched execution, and the whole miserable escape. They were Barclay's darkest ally, a shocking embarrassment.
Because the convict had a collaborator in the prison staff, you mean?
Aye, for shame. The coroner confirmed the death of the man after his execution caught the scythe, and my chief warder at the time, Vigil, was in charge of the whole affair.
But Mr. Vigil says he didn't know anything about it.
The rascal will not say otherwise, huh? More handcuffs?
Oh, how could I say no? You can never have too much iron in your diet. When Mr. Vigil was handed his dismissal notice as a result of what had happened, he was so despairing, he jumped out of your office window, didn't he?
I did not like to say it, but that's just Vigil trying to get out of it. Do you not think he wouldn't have jumped from the shock of his crimes being exposed, huh? I do.
You would not say otherwise, though, would you?
Of course, I cannot shun all responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anybody that cares what went on at that time now. Why Gregson have been murdered and Dr. Sy forbidden from having any visitors?
No visitors. Someone obviously doesn't want to giving anything away. Well, we're not going home empty-handed.
And I would not dream of sending you packing with notes. Come on, he'll take your ankle or two.
Oh, well, it would be rude to say no. Wouldn't want to become anemic.
I suppose, if there's anybody who might still can't abuse what happened back then, it'd be the loss from the forensic evaluation, Mariah Gorey.
Mariah Gorey. That's the coroner that wrote the autopsy report.
I Scyther's daughter, she did not have no more, just the one. But the wee bones followed in her mom's footsteps. You didn't ever see her without a scarf in her hand.
Ah. Yeah, we met her. Mama, what is this? Where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? Dr. Scythe's daughter, Mariah Gorey. We could do with talking to her. Gorey, let's talk about Mariah. So, she's Dr. Scythe's daughter, but her surname is Gorey?
Oh, there's some family history, I'm sure, but I don't know canon its or ins and outs of it. She grew up watching a man walking with a body that fought with strange circumstances, and decided to do the same with her own life. I cannot understand it myself.
Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother.
Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of Grax's autopsy, I believe.
Right, and the coroner responsible for this incomplete report.
Someone told me once that the wee lassie always loved her mom's stories about cutting up bodies. There's even a rumor that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby.
Well, then perhaps her mother might have told her about the autopsy from the case 10 years ago.
I'd say there's a fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us.
We really need to speak to Miss Gorey herself about this, I think. Well, thank you very much.
I'm not happy about any part of this. I took years for Londoners to finally forget the whole professor business. Can you now give up on this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions.
I'm sorry, I don't like dredging up these painful memories for everyone.
Can't you not just stay away now? Leave me alone, then I come back here.
I'm sorry, we still have to talk about the Asogi papers.
How'd you come to care about that, laddie? There's no many folk even here in the prison who've heard of those papers.
Well, I can't tell him Mr. Widger told me. I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir. We've been led to believe the papers are actually a lost will and testament. Is that right? The professor's, or rather, Genshin-Asogi's.
Oh, that's right. You're well informed, Jimmy.
Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? But then, after the convict's execution, it mysteriously vanished from his cell, didn't it?
Heavens no, you're off for half a cock there. I think you didn't quite get your facts straight. It was here in the cell, exactly where it should have been.
Oh, not what we heard elsewhere. Let me just
have a wee hawk around here. I'm sure I can find it. I hear you are, see?
The last will and testament of Genshin-Asogi, written with a calligraphy brush.
Of course I cannot read a word of those Japanese squiggles. But I might it says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland.
Yes, that's correct. That's the gist of it. So these are the Asogi papers?
Oh, of course they are. Papers written by Asogi, no doubt about it. There's no mystery here, laddie. That's your lot. After all the strummage of that slayster of an execution, we sent the man's possessions back to his clan in Japan, and that was the end of it.
I think we ought to make a record of this, Mr. Naruto, just in case. The Asogi papers have been entered in the court record. The Asogi papers, we got them. That was pretty easy, actually. The last will and testament of Genshin-Asogi that Mr. Widger claims disappeared after the convict's execution. Apparently, Mr. Asogi described it as the only weapon I have left.
One thing before you go on your way, Mr. Naruto.
Oh, yes?
Those papers are not to do with Gregson's death. I'd prefer it if you did not make no mention of them outside this office, or rather, I would not just prefer it, consider it an order from the highest levels of our government.
I understand. Okay. What if we present you these papers then? Okay, nothing to say about that. Okay, that's okay. I wanna have a look, of course. I, Genshin-Asogi, hereby request that upon my death, last will and testament of Genshin-Asogi, sorry I forgot the headline. Upon my death, and any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be delivered to my son Kazuma Asogi in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. Interesting. Okay. Okay, where do we move next then? I guess... The forensic laboratory might be... Although we do have the Asogi papers now, maybe we just move to the... We were here already. So let's... Okay, we can't even go to the forensics right now. So let's just go to the prosecutor's office and talk to Kazuma. If he's there. 2nd November, prosecutor's office. So, this is the office of Prosecutor Asogi now, is it? Kazuma-sama is doing so well for himself. Even though he's always forced to kneel on the floor Japanese style in that dark corner. It's his habit to sit Seiza style whenever he's working. But right now he is not. Kazuma. I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I? Sorry? That you have all the makings of a great defense lawyer. Well, I always believed that you'd fulfill your dream of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for one second that it would be as the prosecutor. Seeing you stand in a foreign country courtroom so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama, I'm truly happy for you. And I am truly thankful to you, Judicial Assistant Mikotoba. Ryunosuke, I always thought it would be fun for you and I to shake up the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisaged it, though. I suppose it's just another twist of fate. I've learned a lot of things during my time in London. About how Susato-san's father himself was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Jigoku, and about what happened with your father. Then you'll have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice, why I had to find a way to get to the Britain as a visiting student myself. I want to hear it from you, Kazuma. As you wish, Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
Alright, time to converse. But first things first, of course.
There's Lord Von Zeke's incredibly stylish desk.
It's not my style, though.
No, I noticed you've been working at the little table on the floor, kneeling down Caesar style. I thought it was some kind of punishment set up by Lord Von Zeke's when I first saw it.
I find it the most comfortable way to work.
I can't do it. After a couple of minutes sitting with my legs folded under me, they started to go tingly.
Don't exaggerate, Ryunosuke. We both know you can't even manage a minute.
Okay, we got burned here. Lord Von Zeke's fine collection of hallowed chalices and bottles, all neatly lined up.
Yes, he's extremely particular about all that. He has a strict regime for everything, from the storage of the casks to the bottling of the contents.
Gosh, you must be having a really tough time of it being his apprentice.
Actually, no.
Oh?
He's so particular about it all, he refuses to let anybody else touch any of it. So it's been quite easy for me, in fact.
Talk about weird. Very uplifting music here. Do you know who the man in the portrait is?
Why would I?
What? But you're Lord Von Zeke's apprentice.
Yes, apprentice, not friend. And during the time I was suffering from amnesia, I didn't even notice that picture.
Oh, really? I mean, it's not the smallest picture.
I wouldn't have the first idea what the man decorates his office with.
Okay. It's a little weird, but we'll accept it. What about the miniatures here? What the...
It's a scale model of the crime scene.
Oh, yes, I realize that. Does the prosecution office make a model of the scene for every single case?
Apparently so. Sometimes it helps to visualize things better and notice things you hadn't spotted before. Actually, the miniature notice board is my work.
Be honest, you enjoyed making that. Okay. Alright, so nothing of interest here anymore. Oh, sorry guys. Cask floor the ceiling just like the last time we were here. Hello barrels, I suppose.
They're arranged according to vintage, flavor and region. Every week they're all taken out and put back in order.
What? Every week?
Lord Von Zeke's can't seem to settle on the perfect way of arranging them, you see. Vintage, flavor and region don't neatly coincide, that's the trouble.
Gosh, being his apprentice must be a real challenge.
Actually, no.
Oh?
He considers the task too important to entrust to anybody else, so he does it entirely on his own.
So he's a barrel of laughs here and in court then. Okay, what about the bats? Whoa!
You disturbed the bats, did you? Fitting companions of Lord Von Zeke's, wouldn't you say?
Actually, I've seen things flying in Lord Strongheart's office too. Doves, I think. And Lord Strongheart.
Perhaps you have to like birds to attain rank in the judiciary here.
Although bats aren't birds.
Although bats aren't birds, of course.
How about a sparrow for you?
What's that supposed to mean?
Oh, nothing, sorry. Just thinking out loud. Alright, we have everything. Just the... Oh, okay, we can't even check out the desk. Alright. How much time do we have left? Okay, so just some time. I'm not gonna present anything to him right now. We're just gonna converse, I think. Or are we? Let me just think a second. Let's just talk. Your disappearance. It's getting on for a year now, since what happened on the SS Boria. We were heading across the oceans from Japan to Great Britain, when a bizarre series of coincidences led to those tragic events. I thought I'd lost my best friend forever.
I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I awoke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posy of flowers by the pillow. It took me a little while to realize that I was in the cabin of a ship. I slipped out of the room and headed up onto the deck.
Were you already suffering from amnesia at that point?
Yes, I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just this voice in my head. You have something you have to do, something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain. Your task awaits you there. It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. Out on deck, I saw that I was on a huge steamship and we were docked in a large port.
It must have been Hong Kong.
Yes, it must have been.
Yes, it must have been, presumably just before they were due to carry your body off the ship.
I had no idea of the situation, but I did have the feeling that this was in some way my last chance. So I concealed myself among the disembarking passengers and went ashore. Then I disappeared into the crowded streets of that foreign port city, so I could plan my onward journey to Great Britain.
Your journey to Great Britain?
Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me. The sights, the sounds, the smells. My head reeled. I was truly at a loss. I realized now that I'd escaped as a dead man, with nothing but the clothes on my back. No money, of course.
Oh, how terrifying for you.
Luckily, though, I had 2 feathers in my cap.
One being your knowledge of English, I suppose.
That's right, and on the back of that I was able to pick up some work as a deckhand on a cargo ship. Eventually, after calling at countless ports, I finally arrived at Dover. That must have been some 3 months ago now.
Your formidable tenacity of purpose showing itself again. I mean, the man had lost his memory and had literally nothing to his name. But he still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world.
Of course, I had no idea why I'd moved heaven and earth to get here at that point.
So, how did you end up becoming Lord von Zieg's apprentice then?
That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck, really. You see, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers. They took me straight to Scotland Yard, and by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend a meeting. That's when the second feather in my cap came into play.
Would that have been your knowledge of the law?
Yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious about an Easterner with intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back with him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office.
And then, 9 days ago, you finally got your memory back after the trial involving Grabber.
Yes, I did.
Your father, Genshin. Ever since I first met you at Yume, you talked about your dream.
Mark my words, Ryunosuke. I'll be chosen as a visiting student and make my way to Great Britain someday.
Did you know the entire time about what happened to your father here?
16 years ago. When my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. It's my last memory of him. But what I remember most about my father is his unswerving sense of justice. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called at our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It was Professor Mikotoba, your father, Susato-san.
Oh my!
Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped to fund my university education at UMA. I'll be forever in his debt. But nevertheless, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd told me.
Oh.
Then one day, a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There was no indication of these senders, so I opened it assuming it was from an old acquaintance of my father. What I read in that letter changed my entire life.
What did it say?
It said that my father had been a mass murderer, and the writer cursed the Asogi name.
Oh no!
As a result of that letter, I found out what had happened, what had been hidden from me all those years.
Letter from Britain.
Presumably, the letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. If whoever it was had been a member of the judiciary, he could have been present at the closed trial. The letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer.
I'm so sorry you had to find out that way.
I imagine the British government did its very best to silence whoever sent that letter. But someone who knew the truth and couldn't bear the resentment was always going to be a problem.
But still, it could have been written by anyone. Why would you believe such a thing?
There was a newspaper cutting included with the letter. It was the first I'd ever heard of the professor and his terrible killing spree.
Well, what did my father have to say about the letter?
I couldn't bring myself to show it to him.
What? Why not?
Because it deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling me my father was taken by a fatal illness. That couldn't have been easy for him, and he'd done it out of consideration for my feelings. So instead, I showed the letter to Judge Jigoku.
To the other visiting student.
He faltered for the briefest of moments, but then he just laughed the letter off. But in that moment, I saw it in his face. He was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily before recovering his pose. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the strain of grief, and she too passed away. That's when I made up my mind that one day, without fail, I would cross the seas to Britain and seek the truth for myself. The truth about my father, Genshin Asogi. And I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way.
Oh, Kazuma-sama. The Reaper's Trial. Oh, this is all so very sad, guys. Sorry, I just... Okay, I'm back again, sorry.
What we learned today in court turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lawyering. Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper, you know. I almost don't want to believe it myself, but it turns out that Inspector Gregson himself, the victim, was...
It's clear that the inspector was behind the Reaper's activity all along.
What? You mean you knew?
The real question is, who's been giving orders to the inspector? Yes, Barak Van Zieks is the real Reaper. And I know that 10 years ago, it was him who decided my father must be a mass murderer and sent him to his grave.
No, he was merely seeing that justice was done as the law dictates. He's not to blame.
Ultimately, it's people who condemn people. The law is just a tool that they use to do it. And when a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions. Of course he must. But I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life.
Kazuma.
On the contrary, my father's life was taken by the Reaper.
Oh my god. Okay, I think you're wrong, Kazuma, by the way. I think the Reaper is Lord Strongheart. That is what I think. Okay, so let's show him the papers. Kazuma, what do you make of this?
There's only one place where defense lawyers and prosecutors should discuss evidence, the courtroom. So it seems you're still confused by the situation. That's what I make of it.
I get the feeling my friend's always going to have the edge over me, isn't he? Okay, so you don't have anything to say about that. What about this? Okay, nothing to say about this either. But I am sure that there is something that you're going to... For example, the autopsy report. Come on, about the autopsy report. This came up in the trial, didn't it? As something a little dubious, I mean. The fact that no time of death was recorded on Inspector Gregson's autopsy report. Exactly.
Yes, there was some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everyone by surprise. The idea that the victim died the previous day at some other location is quite something.
Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped and the scorch marks on the candle, it's certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence and the scene both point to it.
To be honest, it bothered me too. So I paid a visit to the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible wasn't there, but I got a name. It's Dr. Gori.
If it wouldn't trouble you, Kazuma-sama, we'd very much like to speak with the coroner too.
Of course, the last thing I want is for anything to be brushed under the carpet. Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory is behind Logate Cemetery.
By Barclay Prison, you mean?
Ah, you know it, do you? The prison where my father was incarcerated and robbed of his life.
Kazuma-sama. Well, thank you. We'll pay a visit to the laboratory later today.
Ryunosuke, I want to thank you.
What for?
For this. You safeguarded the soul of the Asogi clan.
Well, it is a famous sword that's been in your family for generations. My only slight regret is that I never got the chance to draw it before I returned it to you.
Karuma is said to have been forged by a master swordsmith during the Sengoku Warring States period. I come from a long lineage of warriors, many of whom were expert swordsmen.
Well then, you're a chip of the old block, I'd say.
This blade, Karuma, is the symbol of the Asogi clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for a surname.
Really? Karuma? Does sound formidable, that's for sure.
16 years ago, when my father was a visiting student here in London, he had this sword forever at his side. Which is why it means so much to me that I have it by my side again now too. And that is all thanks to you.
It was an honor.
Now, I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said a little too much.
Kazuma, you've changed.
No, Ryunosuke, I haven't changed at all. It's you who's changed.
I can completely understand your resentment of Lord Von Zeke's given what happened. But the fact is, those events and this case are, well...
Unrelated? Is that what you want to say? How can you be so sure?
What do you mean?
Never mind. That man is the Reaper, And it's for that reason that the inspector was killed. I'm going to prove as much in court tomorrow, by whatever means necessary.
I can't let you do that, Kazuma.
I know you'll do what you have to as a lawyer, but I'm sure I don't need to tell you that I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom.
I would expect nothing less.
Until tomorrow then, in the Old Bailey.
Well, can we present the armband too? Kazuma, this is your armband.
Actually, I think it's yours now.
Sorry?
You're the defense lawyer. You have a talent for it. I've always known that you would. And now you've chosen to take that path in life. As your friend, I couldn't be happier for you, or more proud.
Kazuma.
So you keep hold of that. Besides, I'm a prosecutor now. That armband would have no meaning for me.
Well, if you're sure. Thank you, my friend. Alright. So it's time to go to the forensics laboratory. But guys, as you can see, from the time we've already spent, we have breached the half-hour mark quite considerably. And talking to Madam Gory will be something that we will be doing on the next episode of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Resolve. See you then.